Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make improvements in your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon, presented by 17 Hats. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. Today is going to be a solo episode. I am checking in to share how I have met my sales goal 6 months early. Now, that's a little bit of clickbait, but it's not untrue. I just haven't made all the money quite yet, but I'm going to share in this episode how I know it's coming, how I keep track of my numbers, how I've planned, how I know that I am basically done for the year and everything else is gravy. I will get into all of the details in this episode. And you may have noticed that the main podcast has turned into almost exclusively interviews with other balloon professionals. I love these interviews. I love how everyone in our industry is so willing to share. And this year, something that happened that was so exciting is that the manufacturers, a lot of the brands that we love and use, have also hopped on board to help curate those interviews. So they are bringing more guests and more ideas to the table. So if you've been listening since the beginning, you may have remembered that a lot of the episodes used to be solo episodes, very similar to the one you're about to hear. If you missed those, fear not. That's what's happening over on our bonus episodes. And instead of calling them bonus episodes, I'm actually naming it On the Bright Side. So this is kind of like my soft launch of a second podcast. Now, these episodes have been happening for years and years. They have evolved. It started as a book club, and then they were just kind of like whatever I wanted to talk about. But now I'm excited that for the subscribers, the $5 a month, you can subscribe to On the Bright Side, and it is my private feed of unfiltered takes, behind the scenes strategies, honest business breakdowns. That's where I am pretty vulnerable. I share all the ins and outs of what's happening in my business, and I'm excited to kind of ramp up things on that private feed. It is unsponsored, it is commercial free, and it is the most unfiltered version of the podcast that you're going to get. So if you'd like to join, you can do that using the link in the bio. And those podcasts, once you sign up, they show up wherever you already listen. So if you are on Apple, you can just go ahead and sign up there. If you listen on whatever RSS feed, you can enable the Patreon account. So those episodes show up on your phone. So it's not like another platform. It's not another thing to do. You join, and then you'll get them like normal episodes. So I am very excited to be investing a little bit more in that private feed. All right, let's take a quick break and head over to the UGlu Hotline for some great advice that sticks, and then get into this week's episode where I'm sharing how I have smashed out my sales goal super early. Welcome to the UGlu Hotline, where we discuss great advice that sticks, brought to you by Pro Tapes. Pro Tapes is a leading manufacturer of specialty tape products like Pro Artist, Pro Gaff, and our favorite balloon tape, UGlu, which helps you create amazing balloon arrangements and decorations. If you have a tip, send me a DM on Instagram at The Bright Balloon. Today's tip is courtesy of Rachel, who is the owner of Evansville Balloon Company, and she suggests negotiating with your helium distributor for an annual lease instead of a monthly rental fee. So I personally did this, and it changed mine from $40 a month in a rental fee down to $10 a month because I paid annually. So thank you so much, Rachel, for that tip. I hope many of you can use that as well. All right, welcome back. Okay, the first thing that I said in the intro that's a little misleading is that I don't actually have a sales goal, and I think that's why I've actually killed it this year. Like, I've been so focused because I think a sales goal is kind of distracting. It's like this big number you want to hit, but at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I could have $1 million sales goal, but who cares if it costs me, $1.5 million to get there, right? That's not that doesn't matter. That's pointless. So instead, for the last 2 years, I've been focusing on a net income goal, what I pay myself. That's what I care about. Like, I don't care how much my business makes. I care how much I make. So I want to pay myself $100,000 salary. That was my goal for the year. So I have been super focused on that goal, and it's really done me a service in eliminating distractions. I think sometimes people get so caught up in that sales goal. You could beat your sales from last year, but take home less. That's very possible. That's very normal, actually. So instead, I have been really, really focused on my actual income. So I think that is the first thing that set me on course this year to hit that goal early. Especially because I think sometimes a sales goal is just like a made up number. It's based on some nice big round number that you, for some reason, think will make you successful, right? I want to hit $500,000 in sales. I want to hit 100,000 in sales. I want to hit $1 million in sales. If you don't reverse engineer and figure out what that means for your actual bottom line, it doesn't make any sense. It can actually just make you work harder and earn less. And that's the opposite of what I want. I want to work less and make more. So being zeroed in on that income goal gave me a starting point so that I could reverse engineer all of my numbers. So that is my first tip. Get clear on how much you actually want to make. And then kind of the second point in that same facet is sitting down and getting really, really clear on your goals and where that money is going to come from. So if I want to make $100,000 this year, I actually sat down at the beginning of the year and I set goals. Where is that money going to come from? For me, it's coming from a lot of different places. Not all of them will apply to you. I have some podcast income. I have a huge job that gives me a big lump sum. I have recurring jobs that happen every year pretty predictably. And then I know that I need to make up X amount each month to kind of hit that, sales goal, assuming that I'm going to take like 50% of it. That's what I shoot for. I try to take 50% of all of the sales that I bring in. I've set my business up to kind of follow those numbers. So I can kind of do some math, and instead of just kind of pulling a number out of thin air and then hoping that I magically hit it, I am breaking down where that money is actually going to come from. So if you get to a point where you're like, I need to do $10,000 in sales a month, well, you better have a plan of where that money is going to come from. Maybe you need to do $20,000 in sales a month. And then if you're like me, you're going to look at your calendar and know it's going to be really, really hard to hit 20,000 in January. So maybe I actually need to hit like 30,000 in June. So having a plan, sitting down and writing it all out set me up for not only success, but more importantly, clarity and predictability. I think the worst thing you can do to yourself is set this big sales goal with no plan, no understanding of where that money is going to come from, and then you don't hit it and you feel bad about yourself. Like, that's the worst. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Now, I'm not saying don't be ambitious. You might set a really, really high goal, and then you might have some ambitious plans of how you're going to accomplish it. So one of those examples for me, I sat down, I looked at my numbers, and a lot of my good jobs were coming from local hotels. I live in a resort town, so a lot of the big events happen at our convention centers. They happen at our wedding venues. And in almost all of those cases, I realized I was referred by the venue. So that gave me clarity in other areas as well. So instead of spending money and time on Instagram and hoping that one person finds me, I'm spending time and money and really intentionally zeroing into those vendor and venue contacts, the people that are going to refer me for the $10,000 job, the people that are going to refer me twice a month all year for their weddings, right? Like, those are really my big clients, not necessarily the client themselves. So sitting down, having a plan, and knowing where my money comes from is kind of my second tip. And I'm going to clarify that a little bit more. I'm going to call that my audit. So I have talked about doing annual audits. I have episodes on the main channel. I have lots of episodes over in the bonus episodes. I am a big fan of doing an audit. So what I mean by that is that I sit down and I look at all of my jobs from the previous year and I pull out the ones that could happen again. So I am not so concerned with chasing, a wedding, a baby shower. Like no one's going to get married again and do balloons again a year later. If they do, that's a pretty red flag client, if you ask me. Baby showers, right? Those are like once or twice in a lifetime events. I'm not going to follow up and ask someone if they want to rebook their annual baby shower. Like that's nuts. So instead, I'm following up with corporate events. I'm following up with maybe birthdays. I'm following up with community celebrations, things that happen on an annual schedule. I have some corporate conferences that happen every year, and proms are a huge recurring business for me because that one advisor stays, even though the kids graduate, right? They're moving on, but these teachers who are being paid like $0 to also be the student council advisor, they just want their jobs to be easy. They don't want more work. So if you can reach out and email someone and say, hey, last year we did prom balloons. Do you want those same prom balloons again? They're probably going to say yes. You've just made their life easier. So I think I have 4 recurring proms and they're at the same venues. It's so easy. And again, it's not 100% guarantee, but it's a lot higher percentage than new business, right? Like you can be pretty confident that a prom that liked you might book again for their prom versus just hoping all this new business comes out of nowhere. It's much more predictable and it's much easier to market to people that already like you, that already trust you. So that is where a lot of my energy has gone this year, is marketing to those repeat bookings. Okay, I've said a lot already. I had to pump the brakes because over on the bonus episodes, over on the bright side, there are no commercials. So I just go. I get fired up and I get excited. So I kind of forgot that this was a regular episode. So I have to make time for commercials. So I'm going to pump the brakes and then we're going to review and then get back into it. I hope you are loving this. You can tell I'm really passionate about this because it is exciting to not only make money, but to know that it's coming and eliminate some of that stress by making it more predictable. So let's take a quick break and then we'll get right back into it. This episode is brought to you in part by Having a Party Wholesale, your one-stop shop for professional balloon supplies. Some of my summer favorites include iridescent Brooklyn foils, flanges that I use to make my own base plates, and did you know they even sell dog toys made from recycled balloons? How cute is that? Having a Party has everything you need to keep creating. Their fast shipping, great prices, and customer-first service make them my go-to supplier. Head to havingaparty.com and use promo code podcast at checkout. All right, welcome back. Let's review. The first tip I shared was goal setting. Get very specific very early on in the year of what you want to make. And for me, shifting away from the sales goal and shifting towards the net, like what I pay myself, that has been a game changer. The second has been being specific of where that money is coming from. Like have a plan. Just ballpark some numbers. But if you want to pay yourself $100,000 and you're currently only doing $50,000 in sales, you need to have a plan of what's going to change. You don't want it to just be magic and hopefully these people email you and hopefully your business triples. That's probably not going to happen. You need to have some sort of plan. So the example that I used was realizing that a lot of my business comes from the resorts and I'm going to focus on marketing to the resort booking directors. Okay, that gave me a plan. And the third thing that I mentioned was an annual audit. And I want to talk a little bit more about that and how I actually do it. So the annual audit, again, this is the idea of looking for all of those jobs that could come back around. Now, what do you do with that information? So I recently released a course where I share my whole system. We can link to that. You can buy the course. But it's simple. I don't want this to be like some secret, what's Sarah's secret system? It's a lot of following up and keeping track of things. That's what it comes down to. So I have 17 hats, which is my CRM. I have a spreadsheet, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second here. And I have a very simple kind of email cycle right? I'm going to email them 9 months from when their event took place. Let's stick with the idea of the proms that I was talking about. After their prom happens, I say, thanks so much. I'm going to reach out in 9 months to confirm next year's date to see if you want balloons, unless you already have a date, and then I'm happy to put it on my calendar. And I would say about half the time, they do. Again, people who have to do annual events, they want it to be easy. So if they had a great time at a venue, they're probably going to have it there again. They're probably already set the date, and those hotel and venue coordinators are just as aggressive as I am about getting them to commit. So if they already have their date, I want to put that on my calendar. And then a lot of times they kind of verbally confirm, like, we loved it. We want the same thing next year. Please put us down. That's the first step that a lot of people just don't do. They just don't follow up at all. They don't even send a thank you note. So if you send a thank you, I do an email and ask if they want the same thing next year or if they have their date. That's half the battle. Then you need a way to remember to actually reach out to them. So I have a spreadsheet, and this is kind of where I do my audit. I run a report. This is something you can do in 17 Hats, or this is something you can do manually just by looking at your calendar or your invoices. I run a report, and every single month, I put down the jobs that could turn into repeats. So I look, okay, January, I had a corporate party. I had some sort of, delayed New Year celebration for service workers. And I had, who knows, a big convention. Okay, those are my 3 big events. Those are going to go into my spreadsheet. I also put the contact name of the person on there, and I make a little note of how much they spent. That's it. Then I go to February, do the same thing. Oh, I had a big Valentine's install at a restaurant. That could happen again. Ooh, there was a Valentine's dance at the school. That's going to happen again. Oh, there was a baby shower. Nope, I'm not going to put that on there. That person's not going to have another baby shower. Kick that off. So I'm basically pulling out the good jobs that I want to do again, and I'm looking at how much they spent. Okay? I like looking at the money. So sometimes what happened to me this year is that when I got done with my entire audit of the year, I knew that if just those jobs booked again, my best of the best each month, if just those jobs booked again, I was going to be like halfway to my goal, more, probably like 80% of my way to my goal. Because the ones that aren't booking again are the $200 baby showers. They are the, $100 helium deliveries for a birthday. The large corporate events have big budgets and they're likely to book again. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes you have like a 10-year celebration for a huge corporation and it's your biggest job of the year. And they're not going to do the same thing for their 11th year anniversary, right? Or like a 50th anniversary for a couple is going to be a huge party. They're not going to have a 51st anniversary party. So it's not always true, but a lot of times those big events do have repeat potential. So I have my huge audit, my spreadsheet that I've pulled all my information from last year, and I'm going into this year rock solid on the jobs that I need to make sure to secure. So I have their name, I have their email, I have how much they spent last year, and my goal is to cater to those people to try to secure those bookings. If all I do this year is that, I know that the rest of my goal is going to be filled in with new business, right? I'm going to get some new jobs that I never planned on. It's going to fill in with the weddings, the baby showers, the non-repeating events. But I know going into the year, I have a really good plan and a really good idea of what I can do in sales. So having that spreadsheet and having direction and knowing who to reach out to is like half the battle. I would say it's 90% of the battle. And I would say most people aren't doing that. Most people are opening their email and seeing who has reached out to book them, right? That is letting your customers dictate your schedule versus I like to be on the offense and I'm reaching out to the people that I want to work with, hoping to secure them early, hoping to get them on my calendar first, and then I have a little bit more of a predictable income cycle. Because the worst thing that can happen is that a great client reaches out and says, hey, we loved working with you last year. We want to book you again. And you look at your calendar and you can't because you have like 3 parties that you've already booked, like you want to prioritize your good big clients first and get those on your calendar. So I do that by doing an audit of last year. And each year that changes, right? There's some repeat people, but every once in a while you get a new customer and you're like, holy cow, this person came out of nowhere and they're awesome. And I want to make sure to prioritize them for next year. So then, next year when I do my audit, they'll be on there. Now, another thing that has shifted, that has helped me really, really stay focused is that I have switched to tracking all of this manually, which might sound insane because the thing I love most is automation, it's systems, it's using 17 hats, right? Like all the automations. But what happens when you automate things is that you lose track of them, right? Like that's why people lose money out of their checking account and don't even know, because you're paying for some app on auto payment that you don't know about. You are missing transactions that, subscriptions you should have canceled. Like things on automation are great, but you get lazy because that's what the point is. It's allowing you to get lazy. So I have purposely made it less lazy to track my sales. I have QuickBooks. I pay the Fiores to do my bookkeeping. I have my invoices being paid manually, or automatically. Those reminders go out automatically so people pay. So I get to be lazy in those areas, but for my income goal, the thing that I'm really focused on, I went manual. I went to a spreadsheet. And the reason being is I already had a really good spreadsheet kind of built out, which is the one I just talked about, my audit. And that shows me month by month by month who I should be rebooking and focusing on. So it led to kind of an easy system of just building out that spreadsheet a little bit more. So on another tab, I have my revenue by month. So this was a shift because when you actually do traditional bookkeeping, you're looking at your sales per month. But for me, that's not very motivating because a lot of my sales come in April, right? Like people are paying for their May, June, and July jobs in April. So if you look at my reports, it looks like I had a killer month in April when in reality I did like 5 jobs, right? And then you look at May and June and I'm dying, I'm working so hard and I'm like, why isn't that number higher? Like I found it actually defeating. So instead, I have started tracking the actual work done in each month. That way I can say, it doesn't matter when the money came in. I can see that in May, I did $20,000 of actual jobs. There are other months where I'm like, I'm tired. I don't want to take any more. But I look and I'm like, but I'm at 14,000 and I really want to hit 15. It gives me like a little bit of motivation. The other thing that it does, it kind of primes me for growth and for hiring in the future, because now I can look and say, wow, May is killing me and I'm doing like $20,000 in jobs. That's probably my max, right? Like I need to have more help. I cannot do that much physical work on my own. So then it's giving me some measurements and some data points to kind of assess in future months. So if I see a month coming up and I'm like, holy cow, I'm already at like $30,000, not in sales, but of actual jobs that need to be performed in the month, like I need to hire someone. I need backup. I need help. I can't do all of this. That gives me a little bit of data to know. So again, I don't know if I'm being clear, but the difference between sales, which you can track with like bookkeeping software, and what I'm tracking, I guess I'm going to say jobs. I'm tracking actual money connected to jobs, because remember, people might pay for something 3 months early, 6 months early. I want to know exactly how much work I'm really completing in a month. It just gives me a good benchmark for future years, for future months. I can see when my busy months are and when my slow months are, versus that's not always reflected in a profit and loss statement. It might look like you had a really great month when really, you did sales-wise, people were paying, but you weren't actually doing the work. So now I have my month by month. I see all the jobs I want to book. I see how much income I did in actual work. And sometimes it kind of pushes me over, and sometimes it actually allows me to pump the brakes. I can be like, oh my gosh, we already have $20,000 of jobs to complete in May. I think I'm done. I think I'm good for this month. I'm not going to kill myself and take any more work. So it allows me to see the work, not just the money. All right, let's take our final break. And then I will wrap up with my final strategy and kind of pull this all together. I've shared a lot in this episode, but for me, so much of this business is mental clarity. If you're distracted, if you're confused, if you feel frustrated, if you feel down on yourself, it's so easy to give up because this is a tiring industry. I think for me, when I'm focused, when I'm zeroed in and I have a very clear goal and a very clear strategy of how to get there, it's just made this whole year feel so much easier than in years past. So I'm going to share my final strategy, and it has to do with my bank accounts. So stay tuned. Today's episode is presented in part by our newest sponsor, Jamar USA, a brand that believes in the power of balloons to create meaningful moments. From birthdays to brand launches, their high-quality, eco-friendly balloons help turn simple spaces into something truly special. Made in Italy with care and a commitment to sustainability, Jamar balloons are trusted by professionals around the world for their vibrant colors, durability, and creative versatility. Whether you're planning a big celebration or just want to brighten someone's day, we're here to lift the moment with you. Jamar, lifting the moment. All right, welcome back. My last tip of how I have reached my goal and know that I've reached my goal is how I actually move my money. So I'm going to talk about my bank accounts. Now, in the intro, I talked about how not all the money has come in yet, but I've already sort of hit my goal. Let me explain what I mean by that. I pay myself on payroll, and this is a recent change, and I actually really like it. I hated it at first because I felt like I didn't have control over my money. I felt like I was scrambling to make sure I had enough to pay on payroll, and it felt silly, honestly, to be spending fees on payroll just to pay myself, but it's all for a reason. It's because I switched over to paying taxes as an S Corp, and there are benefits to that, but that's not what this episode is about. Long story short, I now pay myself regularly every other week on payroll. So in order to do that, I basically have a bank account, like a checking account, that's just a pool of money. And every sale that comes in, I transfer 50% of it into that pool of money. That is mine. That's how I move my money around. I have one checking account that all balloon income comes into, and then I divvy it up into other accounts. One account is for taxes, one account is for operating my business, and the other account is my favorite account. That's the owner distribution account. So that money is mine. And then I kind of drip feed to myself the rest of the year. So because I'm so clear on my goal, which is my $100,000 salary, I know how much needs to be in that account to pay myself that $100,000 a year. And I am so motivated to get to that number. Now, it ebbs and flows, right? Because as I'm pushing money into that account, it's also pulling money out of the account for payroll. So I love crunching numbers. I love spreadsheets. I love all the nerdy stuff. So I know right now that I'm $20,000 away from having enough money in that account to pay myself for the rest of the year. So every sale that comes in, I'm super motivated. You know, I shovel $500, $2,000, $1,500. Anytime I get a sale, I'm transferring money into that owner's account, and I have like a little countdown for how many more dollars I have to put in there until I have fully funded basically my owner's distribution account for the entire year. So this would look different depending on your goals, depending on the percentages of money that you move around. But because I can see that account and because I'm paying myself on this very regular pay schedule now, I kind of know what I need to do in sales in order to fully fund that owner's distribution account. And it feels really good, and I'm really motivated by it. I know there's other people who are not motivated by money. I can't relate. I love sales. It's not even because I want the money. I don't even spend it. I just I love the goal. So seeing that money and being able to kind of shovel that money into that owner's distribution account. Now, even if you don't have, even if you're not paying on payroll and you just take the money as you need it, I think it can be super motivating to kind of shovel that money over into your account that belongs to you. So if you're running your business out of one checking account, it actually gives you like false security, I think. If you look and you're like, oh, I'm rich, I have so much money in here. But if all of that money is your money and taxes and running your business, it makes it really hard to know where you're really at. So I love having those separate accounts. And this is all from the book Profit First, which is how a lot of balloon people, a lot of small businesses kind of run their cash flow systems. It was a game changer for me. I've loved this book. But because I have those goals, because I'm focusing on what I pay myself, and because I know how much of each sale I get, it's given me a very accurate read of where I am in the year. So have I fully funded that account? No. Do I have invoices out that as soon as they're paid, I'm going to fund that account? Yes. And I'm so excited. And that actually lights a fire under me to get those invoices paid too. Instead of being like, they'll get to it when they get to it. I'm like, pay me my money so I can transfer it into my account. I am like a goal psycho. So I love having something that I'm working towards. It keeps me super, super motivated. So there was a lot in this episode. I'm going to review because I get excited and I kind of go off the rails. But step 1, set your goal. Set a very, very specific goal. Maybe you're not like me and you do like having a sales goal. Maybe that's your goal. That's fine. I personally was really motivated by the income goal instead. Then do that audit. Figure out all the annual events that you could do from last year and get those scheduled for this year. Get them on a spreadsheet so that you're seeing month by month what those jobs are, and then start reaching out to those people to try to get them to secure the date. Repeat bookings. Focusing on the repeat bookings has been huge for me, and putting a little system in place so that it isn't so painful. If you have no system, it can feel overwhelming to track all your annual events and reach out to those people in 9 months and get them on your calendar and ask for the deposit. But as soon as you get a system in place, something that works for you, it shouldn't feel hard. You want to remove all the friction so you actually do it. That has been such a change in my business. I actually told my girlfriends this week, this month, I have 3 jobs that I did in years past that I cried at. They were so bad. I cried. I got in my car and you're like rage decorating and you're like sweating and you didn't charge enough and you're never going to work with this person again and you hate all your life decisions. Well, this year, they didn't faze me, right? Like there are these huge jobs that are just like easy peasy. We know what we're doing. Sometimes doing those jobs the first time can just be so painful. But as soon as you know who you're working with and what they want and where the balloons are going to go and when you need to get there, it is just so much easier the second, third, fourth time. That stress is just gone. So focusing on repeat bookings not only will relieve your stress, but it's going to help you generate more predictable and easy money. The next tip is tracking your sales manually. This was a huge game changer for me, being very aware of where I was each month, not in sales, but in actual jobs performed. That way I can see, this month felt like a lot of work, because we did a ton of jobs. Or this month felt really easy. Yeah, you probably should have booked a few more jobs, right? It gives me that visual of what I'm actually doing, not just when the money's coming in. And then my final tip is to have those separate bank accounts. Pull out the money that goes to you. Have that separated, because for me, my ultimate goal is that net revenue, that money I'm going to pay myself. So if I can see that account almost fully funded for the year, that's really exciting. That is super motivating. And you might be wondering, well, what am I going to do now that I've hit my goal? Well, I'm going to keep going, right? Like I might give myself some breaks. I might be a little bit more graceful in, letting myself have a full weekend off, right? We're not booking any jobs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't care. I'm not doing it because I've already hit my goal. I'm not just going to say no to all jobs for the rest of the year because I'm done, right? That's just not in my nature. But it feels pretty freaking good to be this far along this early in the year. And I think also it's a great year. I don't know about you guys, but like I'm having a record-breaking year. I know I'm talking to a lot of my friends that are also in the same boat. So a lot of this, might just be because people are spending, right? I obviously don't control the economy. I was pretty scared coming into this year, honestly, and I haven't seen a downtick in my sales. And I'm also 10 years in, so that's something to consider as well. If you're listening to this and you're like, I can't relate to anything you're saying. I couldn't either when I was 1 year in. I am at this sweet spot right now. 10 years in, you have those repeat customers, you have enough people to kind of pull from in that pool, but you don't get there by accident. You get there by taking care of your customers, following through, keeping track of your sales, keeping track of your clients, and being really, really good service providers. And then you get to kind of go on cruise control, and it feels really, really nice. So I hope some of these tips have landed. Again, if you like episodes like this, join me over on The Bright Side, the private feed where I share all the things that are happening in my business, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I'm really excited to ramp things up over there where there's an extra episode every single week waiting for you. And I just want to say thank you so much to those of you that have been subscribers for so long. It means so much to me that anyone cares about anything I have to say about anything. I love doing this podcast. I love talking to all of you. I love sharing the ins and outs of running a business. I couldn't be happier doing what I'm doing. So thank you to all of you that have supported me over there. All right, I will see you guys next week for another episode. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bright Balloon Podcast presented by 17 Hats, my go-to system for booking, billing, and managing my balloon business with ease. If you're ready for more mindset shifts, mini trainings, and strategies to help you grow a profitable, sustainable business, join me on The Bright Side, my private podcast feed just for decorators who want more ease, more income, and more insight behind the scenes of my balloon business. It's just $5 a month, and you can sign up right now in the show notes wherever you're listening. I'll see you on the bright side.